Now coming to tonight's session, I'm very excited and happy to welcome Mr. Sai Satish Vedam, the moderator of this session. Mr. Vedam is the Chief Product Officer, Senior Faculty and Executive Coach at the Institute of Product Leadership. He was most recently the Senior Director of Product Management at Oracle. Great to have you here, Mr. Vedam. Handing the session over to you.
Thank you, Shama. Good evening, folks. I hope all of you have not slipped into the holiday mode yet. You could do so probably after this session. I recognize there are 3 consecutive holidays, at least for some of you in this country. Before I welcome our guest speaker today, keynote speaker, Rajeev Shrivastava. Rajeev, just to check if you are on and if you can turn on your video and say hello, just to make sure that we all.
Hey, hello, Sai Satish, and hello, everyone.
Great, awesome, super. So thanks for joining, Rajeev. But before we get with your introduction and then the discussion subsequently, I want to encourage all the participants here to get as interactive as possible. I think the purpose of these conversations is not just to hear one perspective, but ask questions that are relevant to the topic, and which Rajeev can provide his perspective on, and we can take as many questions as possible within the timeline. I know there are several folks joining on multiple channels today. Those of you who are on Zoom, please ask your questions in the Q&A window, not the chat window, because there's going to be some chatter on the chat window, and it's hard to get to your questions. Those of you on LinkedIn live stream, please ask your questions there. The team behind this is actually going to provide that, and I'll bring up those questions. So before we get any further, I think it gives me great pleasure to introduce to all of you Rajeev Shrivastava. Rajeev is currently a Director of Product Management at Google for the Customer Conversations platform. Before that, he was a Senior Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer at NICE. For those of you who have heard that company, I believe there's a big center in Pune in India with their very famous InContact portfolio. So he led the product management, mergers and acquisitions, and partnerships for InContact for NICE there. He comes from the B2B SaaS space. So I think digital, especially enterprise products in the domain of contact center and CRM. I believe Rajeev spent quite a bit of time in the contact center space, which is awesome. He's also comes with an engineering background from University of Delhi and an MBA from Wharton School. Now, if I may say so, Rajeev, apparently you're also hiring product managers in Hyderabad and in the US. So if time permits, would love to hear from you. What do you look for when you are hiring product managers and product leaders, right? So that'll be useful for our audience here. Now, one other thing, Rajeev, before we get started with your session, is every day for every session, I think we are asking few questions to understand our audience better, right? So understand where they come from, where they work, what kind of activities do they do. Of course, not the same questions every day, because I know some of them are joining every day, so not to make it boring for them. So I'd like to bring up a few polls now, not many, but just a few of them, so that you understand. Shama, if you can bring up that poll, and then the audience can start looking at. Thank you all for taking these polls. These are good insights, not just for the speaker, but also all of us to understand how is this community shaping up? What does this community consist of, right? When we talk about product leaders, it's important to understand the roles that you come from, the companies, the type of companies, the activities. And that way, I think the further events, further activities that we do as part of nurturing this community would be useful. So I encourage all of you to, spend a few seconds to taking these polls. I guess we can wait for about 20 seconds for each of these polls before moving on to the next one. The first one, of course, something that's been weighing heavily both on our minds and our lives, and of course, multiple things going on at the same time. Looks like a lot of people are missing the in-person interactions with the team members. Not surprising, of course. I've also heard from many people that maybe we are not going to miss them after all, which is another topic for another conversation. But we can bring up the next poll, Shama, if you can. Right. Well, thank you guys for that insight. Who do you currently report to, right? Again, from a product leader's point of view, there's a slightly different interpretation and understanding of it. So some of these things will help us provide clarity on what your role is and where you come from. So it does look like a lot of folks are reporting to neither product management leadership or engineering leadership, which is kind of interesting, given where we saw a majority of the audience come from, either current product managers or from the engineering background. But that's fine. I think that is what we have today in this audience. So hopefully, Rajeev, you're getting a sense of this audience so that you can emphasize or de-emphasize any aspects of your discussion. We can have a third and final poll, if you can bring in. Okay, so we keep hearing this question, this topic from multiple folks who are in products. We spend quite a bit of time in market research activities, but what exactly, right? Now, some of these are tricky. Whether you would call it prototyping as a market research activity is debatable, and what stage of your product you're in, and is it very early stages, problem solution fit, or any of those. But nevertheless, make a choice and help us understand which of these activities are you most involved in. Super. So I think that gives us a good sense of at least three aspects of this audience. Rajeev, over to you, and all eager to listen to your perspective on a very interesting topic, being a successful product leader in a dynamic environment. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Satish. Let me start sharing my screen. Bear with me. Slides of the virtual background. So while I bring up my screen sharing, for those of you who heard the background, who were paying attention, I work for Google and we're using Zoom. So we'll talk about the.
We should have thought about that. Speaker from Google Meet. Right?
That's all right. So I think we live in this world where things have been changing. Things have been very different for all of us. So this is the. I think this is the part where I'm going to exit the meeting and return while you ponder over those questions. But Satish, thanks for sharing those polls. I think that gave me a lot of good insights, and we'll keep the conversation simple today. And I wanted to bring a lot of my insights, things that I have experienced as a product manager, which I felt would be useful for the audience here. Mm-hmm. And then we'll love to take a lot of questions from the audience where it's beneficial. And I didn't want to lose track of the last point which you mentioned. Yes, we are hiring in both India and the US. So we'd love to share with the audience what we're looking for, because now the lot of talks that I go to, I'm interested in what's in it for me, not so much of what's in what the speaker has to say. So I want to make sure I bring that perspective to you. So bear with me. I'll be back in as soon as I can.
Okay. Well, I think this is the time, folks, to start thinking. This is a very relevant topic for our times, especially if you are looking to become a product leader, aspiring to become a product manager, or a person in any role in products, right? It doesn't have to be product management, not necessarily in title, but in role, right? Think of the responsibilities and the activities that you do and how you get that. So I see Rajeev's back. If you're ready, you can go. You're on mute, Rajeev.
All right. So take two. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. And can you see my screen?
See you and see your screen.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. So as I said, the topic I wanted to cover with you all today is product leadership in a fast-changing world. And I also wanted to say there's not a lot of new stuff here. So wanted to make sure we talk about things which happen on a day-to-day basis, the things which are important to you as an audience. And I saw in the poll, many of you report into many different places. So I definitely am planning to touch upon some of that topic. I'm going to touch upon the topic of what's important for product managers. And I'll also spend a little bit of time talking about different company environments. As we know, one size doesn't fit all. And that's it's hard for you to listen to one person say, at this one company, here's how things work. And in your mind, you're wondering, gosh, I work for a very different company. It's a very different size with a very different culture. How would I be successful in that world? So I'm hoping to cover that. As Satish said, please bring the questions coming. That's what will make the conversation interesting. So I want to start at the very basic level. And to me, the important question is, what does a product manager really do? And when I think about what a product manager does to me, is they're identifying customer needs. And again, that sounds really simple, and we'll spend a little bit of time on that to see what that means for us. What their business objectives are, and what features that they need to build to meet those capabilities. And then the product manager really goes further to say what does success look like. And the last piece is very important, is they have to rally the team around them to turn that vision into reality. Now, that sounds really interesting, and this is what we expect most product managers to be doing. Then the question is, what about the best product managers? In all our endeavors in everyday life, we're talking about how do we do a job and how do we do it really well. So to me, the best product managers are visionaries. You're really not coming into the world and saying, okay, let me take an existing product and let me figure out how to copy it the best. Or let me take a simple problem and how to solve it at best. And product management is about solving problems at scale. And as a visionary, you're really driving the vision of the product, and you're leading your teams to deliver on those goals. And that becomes really important. So you're laying out a vision and saying, here is how I'm going to deliver on that vision. And along the way, there are a lot of bumps. Along the way, there are a lot of obstacles you run into, a lot of challenges you will run into, both market conditions, non-market conditions, your own teams and whatnot. And that's what will really make you a really good product manager. And the best ones are really who are leading from the front. And regardless of your situation, as a product manager, I would expect that we are setting strategy. We are evaluating ideas. And evaluating ideas is independent of where the ideas come from. I think as product managers, many times we get hung up on, oh, are those ideas mine? Am I the ones who is creating those ideas? And the notion here is, no, you don't have to be coming up with the original ideas. The ideas can be anybody's, including yours. The goal is, are you helping evaluate those ideas? And are you determining the merit of it? Are you being objective about it? And then using those, you're defining the product. And product means different things to different people. And that's something which I want to cover a little bit as well. To me, a product is not things that you're building for one customer at a time. When you're building things for one customer at a time, that is custom development. There is a time and place for that. It's a very important aspect. And I suspect many of you have spent a lot of time in your careers building custom products, which are highly impactful, which are very important for a customer. In some cases, it's portable. You can build it for one customer and take it to other customers as well. But in this case, it's about, can you build it once? Can you deploy it multiple times? And a lot of that comes from your ability to effectively prioritize. So you're solving for a particular problem. Now, what capabilities does that product need to have? And that's where a lot of your skill would come in terms of, here is what I'm doing, here's what I'm building, and here's what I'm prioritizing. Here's what to build, here's what not to build. And we'll talk about strategy a little bit as well. When I went to school, one of my professors was a renowned strategy professor. And one of the key ideas he came to the table with is, strategy is not about what you can do. Strategy is about what not to do, because you can do so many things. Now, when you think about an idea and a product, you are considering the scope of that product. You can do so many things with that product. The question is, what do you prioritize to say, here are the things we must do, here are the things we must not do. So the must not do is a very important part of being a product manager, of here are the things I would not focus on. So keep that in mind as we go through this conversation. That will become important. And as we keep looking at the universe, so I get this question a lot. Now, as a product manager, how do you work with different teams? Now, when you think about different teams, you have UX, you have the technology teams. When I say technology teams, think about your engineering teams, your professional services teams, your implementation teams, and the business. And as a product manager, you are really operating at the intersection of those three. Now, if you think about what are you visionary on, what ideas are you prioritizing, in the end, we are talking about, as PMs, talking about solving business problems. And when you're looking at solving business problems, you got to understand the business. So spending time in the circle there would be very, very important. Now, this diagram, again, if you Google it, again, you will find many variations of this. And one of the variations would be, oh, this doesn't work. And I'll tell you now from my personal experience, this is an interesting paradox many, many times. And how well does this work depends on your ability to take this and apply it. Again, as I said earlier, one size will not fit all. So you'll have to figure out how best to use it. But really, the business world is very, very important. If you don't understand what problems you're solving, regardless of how well you do these two, will be interesting, but not very useful. Understanding the UX becomes very, very important, because one of the things we will talk about in a few minutes is user experience. What are customer expectations? And if you don't meet that well, you can have a really interesting idea to solve a business problem, but you will not be able to meet the customer needs, because the customer needs are evolving. And one thing we'll talk about as customers is, as users, think of yourself. Think of yourself. Now you have multiple hats you can put on. You're an employee at a company, or you are a self-employed entrepreneur, or you're on your own. You're also a consumer. You go to buy coffee every day, or whatever is your drink of choice. You go to your grocery. You travel. You do things as a individual and as an employee at a company, or as a business consumer. Now, are the expectations really different? And what I want to emphasize on is the expectations are not very different whether you are a consumer or an enterprise customer. And last but not the least here is the tech world is you have to make sure your technology is going to enable it. So you're working with the engineering teams, determining what is feasible, pushing the boundaries on what is feasible. So again, don't take, oh, this is all we can do and this is the best we can do. There's always more to it, but looking at here are more things you could be doing. So that's something which is really important. So now let's try to make this real for us. So I said all that in the past 5 minutes. Now, how hard can this be? Now, it doesn't seem really hard. You talk to a customer, understand what the problem is, figure out, prioritize, and build a problem. So I'll maybe pause for 30 seconds myself here, let you look at this. I'm sure this is not the first time you're looking at this picture. So let me pause, let you go from top left, go this sequence, and then follow this sequence, and then let's look at it and then talk about it. Okay, I am hoping you got a quick look at it, and at least when I looked at it first, I found it amusing, and then I started going back to how many times in my career has this happened, and it's amazing how often this happens. And if you think about, let's just look at step one on what the customer explained what they wanted to what the customer really needed. Now, that's not that far apart. In the end, you're looking at a swing. You're looking at a tire swing, or you're looking at a regular swing. And regardless if it's tied to a tree or you have your usual swing and whatnot, the idea is not that different. the road which was taken to get here is interesting and challenging. And when you operate in a product world, when you're a product manager, you're dealing with many, many different individuals, many different kinds of audience. And that can make the problem really interesting, can make it very convoluted. Like, when you look at this specific one, how a business consultant described it versus how a customer explained it, now it's with the right intent. The intent is very similar. If you look at how a programmer wrote it, it has all the necessary components. Now, the question is it meeting the purpose? The answer is obviously no. And when you look at, I find this very interesting. How was it supported? Not really. So when you look at this, the key message I want you to take away from this is product management can be really hard or can be really simple. Now, the goal here is to solve hard problems. The solution doesn't have to be hard. And that is it's not an easy concept. What you need to focus on is avoiding overcomplication. Like in this case, we took a simple concept and we made it complicated. We made it complicated. We made it, of course, this is how much time and effort it took, and how we really got it mixed up here. The goal is not to overcomplicate it. The goal is to keep it simple. Now, keeping it simple is extremely hard, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but that's going to be a flavor I'll talk about as well, because what I've learned is if you can't keep it simple, you will keep making the same mistakes again, and that will not help you deliver the right user experience. So as we think of our current environment, and I saw the poll which we looked at earlier, so thank you all for voting in that. And I saw most of you, and myself included, I would have voted for the same thing. I'm longing to go get some interaction with my colleagues back in the office. And going back to the office is never challenge-free. I have a long commute to work. It gets challenging with my family time. All of that is a negative, yet I am longing, after being at home for over a year, to go back to work. And the world over, things have changed. Now we are in this unfortunate crisis. Crises always present opportunities, but this is a crisis which has impacted almost everyone in the world in one form or the other. Now the question is, when we look at this environment, what is different? And as product managers, how would we think differently? That's the question I keep asking myself. I keep asking my teams. I get asked that question in many, many forums. And so let's first spend a few minutes trying to understand what's different. And again, there are so many things which are different. I'm going to focus on just a few. So one of the things which you've seen is, again, I took a study from McKinsey. There are a lot of studies out there. I picked this one in particular. I found it useful. Is what has happened as a result of the pandemic? What has happened as a result of all of us going remote almost overnight in many places? And the interesting thing I observed, which is not surprising, so none of this is surprising, but what has happened is our digitization of customer interactions, and by that what I mean is when we engage with our customers in any form, it could be for sales, support, just usual engagement, brand engagement, any form of engagement we're having with our customers as a brand, that digitization has accelerated like crazy. Like if you look at between May 18 and 19, it went from 20 to 36. Now that is 18 months. In the next 6 months, it has gone from 36% to 58%. Now that's a phenomenal increase. And if you put that in perspective, this is like you're accelerating 3 years really quickly in a 6-month time frame. And now this study is from July of 2020 or from late in 2020. I don't see this trend changing. The digitization move has accelerated. We are observing this at multiple levels. And if you follow the news from every cloud provider out there and every company which is focusing on let me digitize the world, it is moving in the right direction. It is accelerating. If you look at adoption across, again, picked up three key regions, it is fairly common. It is the trends are not that different. we see the pace between Asia Pacific and Europe slightly different, and the US slightly different. And the US was started ahead and is further ahead on the journey of digitization, but the trend is very consistent. And we expect this trend to continue. So this was a really interesting study. When we looked at this further, I found a few things interesting here is, and initially I talked about customer expectations. So customer expectations are changing and their needs are changing. And the interesting part here is what is changing and what do we expect to stay? And this is one of those where 62% of organizations believe it is here to stay. So not that, customer expectations changed in the pandemic, and now we are in a world where we are rolling out the vaccines, and people are now, things are getting better in many parts of the world. In some parts, we're still working through it, but eventually we are seeing the light of the day and things will get better. But executives and companies are not expecting that customer expectations will go back to where they were. So that's a big piece. I think the other interesting piece was the increase in remote working and collaboration. And we're sitting here on a Zoom meeting. I spend all my time every day sitting in a Google Meet meeting, and then of course I spend time with family, and that time with family is spent on could be WhatsApp, could be Zoom, could be Google, whatnot. Pick any technology. But we're spending all our time, unless we're in the same household with everyone else, on a remote collaboration. So whether it's our personal lives or it's our work lives, all our time is spent in digital engagement and digital collaboration across boundaries. And that's here to stay. It's the third one I wanted to pick here is increasing customer demand for online purchases. Now, I don't know about you. Again, in our household, we have switched to most things being online. Again, some days you really trip out of the house is to a grocery store, and that is the exciting part of your life. So again, that's very sobering when that becomes an exciting part of your week, a trip to the grocery store. But that's where we have come down to. But your ability and your desire to purchase things online is increasing, and that's here to stay. And as product managers, how do you account for that? And how do you say, I'm doing this, and this is going to lead me to design different products? I wanted to bring a couple examples here. We recently, again, I live in the Bay Area, outdoor dining has opened. I went out with my family to a restaurant. And what is interesting, and this is, I'm sure it's intuitive to many of you, again, for me, it was a good experience, was there are no menus. Because when you think about menus, they are high-touch items, and they're always prone to contamination. And this restaurant, there is just a barcode on the table. You flip out your smartphone, you scan the barcode, and there's your menu. And that's how you order. Now you suddenly have removed one friction point for folks' desire to go eat at a restaurant. And it's safer. Now you can order through that app, you can pay through that app. There's no more credit cards being changed. There are no more things you're touching and handling and risking more contamination. So that's interesting. Let me bring you another example. Now, I had to buy it was my older son's birthday. We were buying him a bike. Now, if any of you have tried buying bikes, and I'll tell you, at least in the US, they've been not available because everyone has been wanting to buy some bikes. When I say everyone, that's an overstatement, but the demand for bikes has increased phenomenally because, again, in absence of other things which you can do outdoor, again, biking is something you can do very safely outside. So bikes are just not available in stores. A year and a half ago, we would have just gone to a store saying, they have a whole, bunch of bikes, you pick one and you get that. Now that's not available. So you can, even if you go to a store, you can talk to an individual who can tell you about, here are the kind of bikes based on what you need. And then I was told, go ahead and order online. Now, when you're buying a bike, and this is for your 14-year-old, and that's an expensive piece of, it's an expensive gift, and you want to be sure. Now, how do you be sure when something like a bike, when I say a bike, it's a road bike, which is being assembled, and now once you get it, and if you don't like it, what do you do? Now, companies have adapted to that and said, at this specific shop that I went to, it was a specialized bike. And what they were able to do was, you pick a bike, we will assemble it for you, give it to you. And if you don't like it, you return it within 30 days. And generally they have a 7-day window in which you can, once a bike is assembled, it's really not returnable, but they extended the time frame to account for in a customer expectation. Yes, you're not able to touch and feel the bike before, so I'm going to give you 30 days to go try it out and return it. And that was very, very interesting. So experiences like that, and again, this will be different in different parts of the world. The point for us as product managers here is, when customer demand is changing, how are we adapting our products and our services to meet that demand? And that becomes really important. This is where a pulse on the users is very, very important. There are a number of other items here. I'll let you take a look at it. Again, you'll have access to this recording. You can look at this. But the increasing migration of access to the cloud is also a trend which is here to stay. And if you look at the growth rate of all the top cloud providers, now Google included, the companies are really at it fast. They're growing. It's helping the cloud providers grow, but it's also helping the companies go digital. So to summarize this, the key here will be, again, the companies and product leaders' ability to adapt to these changes and to create more helpful solutions, which helps the companies meet this demand. And that becomes really, really important. We talked a little bit about customer experience and customer expectations, and I said I was going to touch upon this a little bit. Now, I gave you 2 examples of myself as an individual going to a restaurant, buying a bike. Now, those are my expectations as a consumer. Now, when I'm at work, at Google, we end up building a lot of capabilities, providing a lot of services to our teams. Now, I'm an enterprise buyer at that point. Yet, as an enterprise buyer, my expectations are not very different. My expectations are, I'm still expecting an intuitive experience. I'm still expecting the things that I buy are available anytime, anywhere. And that is different than how it would have been a couple of years ago. I know this trend has been around for a while. It's just accelerated more. I expect it to be very personalized. I don't expect a one-size-fits-all strategy. I expect to be engaged as a buyer and as a consumer. And I also expect, when I get something, and this is for those of us who have operated in this space a long time, I don't expect my implementations to be long and complex. I don't expect it to be very painful. So as we think about our products, keep in mind that the consumer is not making the distinction whether they're buying as a consumer or as an enterprise. And the product characteristics which we need to build in our products need to follow those norms. So that's what I really want you all to take away in a big way, is when you're designing products, when you're looking for careers in product management. A lot of times, at least where I come from, I've fallen in the trap of, oh, these are enterprise buyers. They think differently. These are enterprise users. For them, usability has to be different. And guess what? It used to be 10 years ago. It used to be 15 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Now, it is not that case, and they're expecting the same things. So let's switch gears in terms of, I've described the world to you. How should a product manager really adapt? And here, I will tell you is, think of yourself as the consumer and think of your own needs and your own changing business needs. How do you adapt? Think about our move to the smartphones. Think about all the things which that enabled. Think about, do persona-based designs. When you think about persona-based designs, it's a lot about, I'm designing this product or capability for this kind of user. Define that user, go do your research. And that's where the engagement with UX comes in, is make sure you understand your user really well, and you're designing for that user. Identify who are the influencers and key partners. Now, if you're thinking about the consumer world, think about who's the buyer in the family, who's going to be the influencer, who's going to be the partner. Likewise, when you're in the enterprise world, it is very interesting. Again, as Satish said, I've operated in the SaaS business for a long time. I'll give you an example from the contact center world. Now, in the contact center world, when you're a product manager for an application which is going to be used by contact center agents, they are not their buyers. They are the users. They almost have no influence in a company's decision to say, I'm going to buy brand A, brand B, or brand C. The product gets bought for them. In fact, a lot of times it's not even their company they work for which makes the decision. It's the principal they're working for. So let's say, and I'm going to talk about Google. Now, Google operates a contact center. Google works with different companies in an outsourced manner to staff those agents. Now, those agents really don't have a say in which technology to use, but they are the user. Now, when you think about adoption, we operate in a subscription economy where if your user is not happy, even if they don't have a say in the buying decision, your adoption is going to get shortchanged. And that's very important. And whether you are a user of a consumer application, of an enterprise application, your users become really important. Keep in mind the buyer, because in the end, you also have to make it easy for the buyer. Because if the buyer is not able to make a decision quickly, easily, and can justify why they're choosing to buy from brand A versus brand B, it makes their job harder. So they will end up buying from the company, which will make their job easier. And then as a product manager, you have to keep that into account. So I would say if you have to, again, anchor on something, focus on making your users' lives easier and simpler. And if you do that well, that will make you more successful in more instances than not. And again, there are no fail-safe recipes, but as a product manager, for me, what has worked well in my career is focusing on the users, focusing on their experience. When I say user, I'm also accounting for the buyer, focus on their buyer experience. If you simplify that, things will be so much better. I want to talk about a couple of other things. Now, we talked about leadership, and I know this is late for many of you in India, so I'm hoping you're still connected, you're still interested. I want to tell you a quick story about leadership. Now, when I took my first role as a product manager, I was coming out of business school. I was being recruited by many companies, and one of them was Siebel. And again, they don't exist anymore. They were acquired by Oracle, Sai Satish's previous company. And I have a lot of good colleagues there. But the recruiting pitch for me coming out of school was, be a product manager, be the CEO of your product. And as a fresh MBA with some good experience, I was really excited about that, saying, yes, I get to be the CEO of my product. Now, I'm sure many of you who are either current product managers or aspiring product managers have gotten the pitch. And what that does for us is think about, is the PM really a CEO of the product? Now, the PM could be acting and thinking like a CEO, but we are really not the CEOs of the product. And that's really important because you have to think and act, but you're not making decisions. You're enabling people to make decisions like a CEO. And that is a very important distinction, which I want to bring to you. And if you keep this in mind, this will make you very successful because, again, you have to think like the owner, but also be aware that a lot of the things that you do are influencing, are guiding. And this is where stuff will become really important in terms of you're deciding the why and the what of the product strategy, but you're not making all decisions yourself. You have the responsibility to make decisions, but you have to be accountable for it as well. So that's one thing I want you to remember is a lot about influence. As a product manager, you influence people to make the right decisions and you help them make the right decisions. And that's the part where emotional intelligence will come in. And it's a very important aspect of being a good product manager. Let me talk about different company sizes because I said this early on in my conversation is you might like an approach. You might like an approach where, again, a company like Google has a certain approach. A company like Facebook would have a certain approach. Oracle would have a different approach. Salesforce might have a different approach. You work for a small startup, will have a different approach. So the approach varies by size and stage of the company. And let me highlight a couple areas where you can have an approach where PM drives engineering. You can have an approach where engineering drives PM. Neither of them are wrong, depends on the stage of the company. And you have to, as a product manager, understand that, acknowledge it and say, is this the right thing for me? And move there. The ideal state will be a PM engineering partnership where the PMs decide what to build and the engineers decide how to build. and then they find the right engagement between them and say, this is how we're going to work together, and that works really well. And this is where you will have to figure out as a PM, you really need to adapt. So keep this in mind. Depends on the size of the company, stage. Understanding the culture will be really important. Now, the last piece I want to cover is, as a product manager, what could be your superpowers? What will make you super successful? And it's not very complex. I kept it simple here, listening. And again, listening, you might say, oh gosh, now I'm a product manager, I'm an experienced professional. No, why is listening that important? No, I know what I'm doing. That's what you're bringing me in for. And now there are many ways we can use listening. You can be listening to win. Like, let me hear you out and let me try to answer. Let me try to win this argument. Let me try to prevail. Or let me listen to you and try to fix the problem. Or let me try to listen to you and learn. Now, as product managers, I will tell you is listening to learn is the most important skill, because your job is to go, hear a lot of people out and understand, here is how you will put this in perspective. Here is how you will get going. And that will make you more successful than not. The second piece I will say is make the distinction between complex and complicated. And it's a subtle difference, but an important one. Complicated things can be done by somebody who is very process oriented. You have a defined process. You can say things like fixing a car is complicated. And if you look at trying to fix an internal combustion engine versus trying to fix an EV, it'd be different words. But it is complicated. Once a process is laid out, you can define it. But if you're trying to disrupt a whole industry, you have to think about it's a complex world. And likewise, there are other examples where the difference between complex and complicated gets highlighted. As a product manager, making that distinction is very important. And sometimes working on the complex problems will be your breakaway opportunity to really make a mark for yourself. And so think about this, keep this in mind as you think about your careers. And think about prioritization. We talked about this a little bit. You have to balance, and I call it criticality of demand and frequency of use. So things which are highly in demand and you use very often are the right things to build to start with. And this will apply in many, many instances, regardless of what products you own. I found this framework to be very, very useful. And I've really been able to use this in my career. And I'd like to wrap up with what does a product manager really do at Google? Because I think, as I thought about starting a career at Google 3 years ago, I looked into it myself, and I'm sure many of you would be interested. And a Google product manager is really focusing on strategy, prioritization, and execution. There are a number of things which a product manager does. I'd like you to remember just the last part is you're not responsible for, you're not doing everything yourself, but you're responsible for getting it done. And that's what, in a nutshell, is a product management role for me. And that's what makes you successful in the current market or, in almost in any market. So with that, Satish, it's been gone on a long monologue. Hopefully I haven't put people to sleep yet, but let me turn it over to you, see what questions we have from the audience.
It looks like all are glued to what you're saying. It's pretty, fascinating. I think thanks for summarizing years of experience into specifically very prescriptive advice. So there are a few questions that we will definitely take. As they say, I think product manager is essentially an orchestrator of a cross-functional team, right? Not the doer, as you said, not responsible for everything, but working with the teams to get that done. And it reminds me, when it comes to prioritization, a joke once one of my boss told me, as a product manager, you should be able to prioritize your own kids, right? Not that that's not the right advice, but you get the point, right? So there are several questions. So I'll try to combine related ones into something, and I'll also call out a few names who are asking this. So Pinto asked this very relevant question in our current context, which is, as products become more digital, right? And we know the adage, the Andreessen Horowitz, software eating the world, right? So, but as products become digital, how much should a product manager have an understanding of these new cutting edge technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, or whatever, right? So a lot of things emerging. What is the level of understanding as well as depth that one should have?
That's a great question, Pinto. I think from an understanding, it's very hard as a product manager to master many technologies. So I'll start with that. So I think as product managers, we should not feel compelled to be master of many technologies. As a product manager, there are two parts you can master. You can master the product management discipline, and then you can master the domain. Now, if you have to pick between one of those two, more often than not, product managers will get hired for their product management discipline and their ability to master multiple domains, and they can specialize in a few. So if blockchain is an area of interest for you, I would say you should know more about blockchain than many other people, but not than most other people. And think about it that way, and you should know enough, and you should demonstrate an ability that you know how to learn. If you can demonstrate you know how to learn, at least when I look for people for my team at Google, we look at, do you have an ability to think critically, analytically? Do you have an ability can you demonstrate that you can learn fast? And that will win you more conversation than saying, oh, I'm the industry expert on this. And then you're limiting yourself. One is to one domain. Secondly, you have to demonstrate that you can do product management well as well. So I would balance those two.
Super. So there are several questions on what do you look for to hire in Google, but I'm going to slightly paraphrase that and ask, what kind of skill sets or even mindsets are important for anybody to look at opportunities at Google or anywhere for that matter? But if there are something very specific that you look at, I'm sure our audience would love to know. But from a skill sets point of view and mindset.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So from a mindset, let me start with the mindset. So we're looking for at Google, and I've seen it as I've hired in many of my prior companies as well. You're looking for the strategic thinker, but you're also looking for the doer, meaning you can relate your strategy to your user. So a user focus is very important. Can you distill the user focus to say, what are the problems? Your cognitive abilities are important. Your analytical abilities become very important. Can you break down a user problem, understand what it means? Can you design what should be the product concepts? And then can you build a measurement framework? And by measurement framework, I'm not saying build a whole analytics stack. Just say, what will make this product successful? What will make my user successful? What we also look for is, do you have empathy for the user? Empathy is very important. Again, it's sometimes hard to measure, but that becomes really important. And can you think outside your comfort zone? At Google, we stress a lot on that. Like at Google, typically when you come for an interview, our interviewers will not ask you about something you already know really well. They'll ask you about something we think you don't really know. And what we're looking for is, how quickly can you think on your feet? Can you apply discipline from a different space, from a different domain to a new space? And are you willing to push for not taking no for an answer? And when I say not taking no for an answer, that gets interpreted in many ways. But the problem is, it might seem hard, but it's not doable. And that's what we at Google are trying to do. Are we able to think 10x? Are we able to push the envelope? So that's what a Google product manager is required to have. And I see that across the industry, across many other roles, where you'll have some flavors of that, but that thinking would be needed. And that's what you should think about if you consider careers at Google.
Super. So if I were to quickly summarize that, just for the benefit of everyone, you're saying strategic thinking, which needs, obviously, the other side of the coin is a doer, not just a hand waving and defining some documents and whatnot. Customer centricity, that includes empathy. And this customer we are talking about is not just the user, but the whole decision-making unit in the context of enterprise, if you will, buyers, influencers, and all of those. You also brought up influencing without authority, right? Ability to influence your stakeholders, which also requires a good amount of presentation, storytelling skills, in Zoom. Are there any specific skills that you would look at? Like, for example, how important are design skills and data skills, right? So marketing, product marketing, for example.
So and that's a great question. So I would say of those skills, I would say about Google, we are looking for more your technical and design skills. Again, you will work with a team around you, which will help you do some other things. But your ability to engage at a detail level with your engineering team, not to go to do the technical design, but being able to understand what the implications are, understand the possibilities, and do the technical design, but not the coding. You're not expected to code. You will not be allowed to code even if you want to. But the technical design with the engineering team is very important. Your analytical skills become very important in terms of analyzing a problem, breaking it down to specific parts, breaking it down into chunks, and talk about phased delivery. We're not talking about a big bang approach. Phased delivery will be very important. Product marketing will be interesting. You will be expected to say, how will we take this problem to the user? But you'll also get an opportunity to work with your counterparts who can help you do some of that. Don't focus on the big picture. Focus on the big picture. Don't have to do it all yourself. You will find the right counterparts, but technical design would be a really important part of your core role, and your ability to write a really good PRD, a product requirement document, which describes here are the things you are looking to bring to market. That will be really important.
Super. Well, I think we can go on with these questions for another hour. Unfortunately, we are running out of short of time. But one request for you, Rajeev, is if you could help answer some of these questions on the LinkedIn thread when wherever some of the audience is posting later, whenever you get some time. Appreciate that, right? So, but I want to definitely acknowledge, folks, Asit Piri, Abhinav, Sonali, Rohit, Ashish. Lots of questions, Priyanka, Harita, Vijay, there are a whole bunch of folks who have taken time. Appreciate that, folks. I think this is how we get insights from, speakers and leaders like Rajeev. So just before, a couple of quick announcements. I think the person who asked the best question today, and we've got some really good answers, perspectives from Rajeev, is Pinto. Congratulations, Pinto. Quickly, there's a leaderboard that I want to show all of you in the audience. I encourage you to join this leaderboard. Invite your friends to these conferences so that they can also benefit from these discussions and insights. All you need to do is click on that link or scan that code, join, and then within 30 seconds you'll be able to invite your friends. Now, the other thing, before two quick announcements, before you let you go, Rajeev, is what the main reasons for doing these events, an annual festival like this, is to build and nurture a strong product leadership community in India, right? There are only 1,000+ folks who have joined this community. I encourage every one of you who joined here to go and quickly sign up for that, community.productleadersforum.org. You also have a mobile app, dedicated community, curated resources, and of course, not to mention a lot of discussions on career opportunities in product management and product leadership areas. The other important thing that I want to bring attention to all of you, it was not there yesterday, there's a new one, is this is a community-driven initiative. There is a product leadership benchmark survey that is happening right now, and it's actually a quick survey, so I encourage the participants here to, it is going to take some time, don't do it right now, but here are the benefits of doing this, right? And these, the outcome of this is going to be very insightful. Whoever takes this survey will get a soft copy of this. It is community driven to basically get insights and baselining research of the state of product management and product leadership in India, right? So you can get insights on salaries, on career paths in product management in various companies, actionable tips to excel in your product roles, understand the day-to-day life of the product leaders, and of course, if you're a CXO, hiring and setting up a product organization. So this is driven by the community as well as some of the alumni of IPL. So please go ahead. Interesting.today/benchmark study is the URL if you are unable to scan that QR code. So request all of you to do that, right? With that, Rajeev, I really want to take this opportunity to thank you. And as a token of appreciation, please accept this digital certificate on our behalf. And again, thanks so much for your time. Truly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Sai Satish. And thanks everyone for listening and joining in. Thank you.